Peace and welcome back to another Hidden Jewels. I am your sister Zahara, and as you can see, the title of the video is Clouds of Heaven. And y'all, I'm not going into some in-depth look at what I'm about to discuss with y'all, but just want to put something on y'all mind, and you all can add this to your own studies and take a further look. And what I kind of want to show is how the Most High will use clouds as a mode of transport. I call it like heaven's transportation or vehicle system. Now, I'm not here to talk about UFOs and motherships and flashing orbs and all of that conspiracy stuff, different sightings that people have claimed to see, but I only want to show you guys what I see in the scriptures. I'm not ain't no tinfoil hat theories here, okay? I just want you guys to appreciate the greatness and the ingenuity of God. I love the intricate, complex beauty of the works of God's hands. And I think we need to get to know our Creator. And again, the Lord can do whatever He wants to do. He created this world and all of the elements in it, so He can utilize them as He pleases. Now, before I start, I do know that clouds can be literal, symbolic, metaphorical. Clouds can represent judgment. Even false prophets are referred to as clouds without rain, or clouds carried by a tempest or a storm. So I just kind of want you to come with me and look at some things. So, as I always say, get your Bible out, pen, paper, take notes, and follow along. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's go to Matthew 24 and verse 30. It says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven," talking about Jesus. "And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." And here when He says coming in the clouds, that means He coming to judge. And we know when He comes, He will come with the saints as well as the angels to judge this earth. Now, let's see where Jesus pulled that from. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 13. "I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought Him near before Him." So this sounds like transportation, that He's using these clouds. Yes, He could use it to represent judgment, but as well as showing you that He uses these things to get Him to and from. He don't need it, but He can use them as He see fit. Okay. Matthew 26 and 64. And let me tell y'all, there are so many scriptures everywhere. I couldn't fit them all in this lesson. So at the end of the lesson, I'll share the other scriptures that I omitted from the lesson. Matthew 26 and 64. And you know, Israel's church, this is what we're all about. We're all about learning God's word, growing in the knowledge. We're not here to compete with others. We're not here to, get some kind of fame or some type of recognition. We are just lowly servants, like the rest of you all, trying to get this thing right and share what we know with y'all. Okay, Matthew 26:64. It says, Jesus saith unto him, Thus thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Okay, now let's go to Luke 9. It's just interesting because from the beginning, even with the Most High first appearing to Israel, he did so in a cloud. Luke 9:34. All right, so this is the Transfiguration of Jesus that took place where Peter, John, and James saw a vision of Moses and Elijah. All right, so verse 34 says, While he thus spake, there came a cloud and overshadowed them, and they feared as they entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. So that's interesting. Let's go to Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 1. And I also want to say that, clouds were used as well to protect man from seeing God in his full glory. Because as you know, no one can see God and live, not in his flesh body. So he will shroud himself in a cloud. He will hide himself to protect us. And he uses these clouds as sort of a veil. Okay, Acts 1 and verse 9. Acts 1 and 9. Okay, so this is when Jesus has ascended back to heaven. And when he had spoken these things, talking about Jesus, while they beheld, so while they were looking, he was taken up. And a cloud received him out of their sight. Verse 11, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. And how did he go up? He went up, he was taken up by a cloud. A cloud received him. And so this is why Jesus said, when I return, I will return in the clouds. Okay, so are we looking at a mode of transportation? Are we looking at the clouds being utilized as a vehicle? Revelation chapter 14 and verse 14. Just something to think about. Revelation 14 and verse 14 says, And I looked, and behold, a white cloud. Here's a cloud. And upon the cloud, so on top of the cloud, one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. So here we see one like unto the Son of Man, the Messiah, sitting atop of this cloud. Psalm 68 and verse 34. Now, most people, they try to depict what they think is inside a cloud, or, how the vehicle of the Most High looks. But, truly, we don't know unless you have actually witnessed it for yourself. Okay, Psalm 68 and 34 says, Ascribe ye strength unto God. His excellency is over Israel, and his strength is in the clouds. Here we go again. His strength is in the clouds. Verse 17, watch this. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. That means multitudes, myriads. The Lord is among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. Oh, wait a minute. It sounds like what this scripture is saying. Now, y'all remember when the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai in that cloud, that dark cloud, lightnings, thunderings, and he came down to speak to Israel, to give them his law. It sounds like what this scripture is saying is those angels were right there when that took place. They were all around. They were there. They accompanied him. They were his entourage. See, it ain't nothing new. The Lord been doing this. The Lord been had a whip, been had wheels, been had a vehicle, way before man even thought about creating one. The Lord is among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. And this may be why Stephen said what he said in the book of Acts chapter 7 and verse 53, when he said, y'all were given the law by the dispensation of angels. Right where at? When they were in Mount Sinai, talking about our ancestors. So that's interesting. That's something that you guys can look at. Let's go to Psalms 104 and verse 3. Okay. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, his ride, his vehicle, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. The clouds his chariot, and the wing, and walketh upon the wings of the wind. So he utilizes the elements that he created to transport him from one place to another. God, he could do that if he wants to. We saw how Jesus walked on water like it was nothing, just walked on it. So he could do as he wishes. But you see that? How he uses the clouds? Let's go to Exodus 13 and verse 21. Exodus 13 and verse 21 says, And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud. If you look up a pillar, it's a column. Just look it up. You can Google this. Pillar of a cloud to lead them the way. And by night, see how it separates day and night? In a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. Verse 22. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Let's go to Exodus 14 and verse 24. It says, "And it came to pass that in the morning watch, the Lord looked," so he looked, "unto the hosts of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians." So he looking out the cloud. So the Most High is in it. The Lord is in this cloud. He's looking through it. Isn't that neat? Psalms 99 and verse 7. There's a reason why, y'all, our ancestors used to say, "Swing low, sweet chariot." They had understanding. Psalms 99 and verse 7. He spake unto them in the cloudy pillar. He spake to them in the cloudy pillar. Spake to who? If you read verse 6, it says, "Moses and Aaron among his priests, and Samuel among them that call upon his name. They called upon the Lord, and he answered them." Through what? That cloudy pillar. They kept his testimonies and the ordinance that he gave them. So you see, he spake to them through this cloudy pillar. So I don't believe it was just smoking for no reason. No, it was to so that the Most High could veil himself and protect Israel when he dealt with them, so they couldn't see his full glory. But he was right there in it. Exodus 25 and verse 10. "And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shall make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof. And 2 rings shall be in the other side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them." And so those staves are like those poles, and they put them in those rings so that they can pick them up. The Levites, so they can pick up the ark and carry it. Verse 18, "And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall you make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof." Because these cherubims represent the likeness of the angels in heaven. "And the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings. And their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the face of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark." So this is a throne. "And in the ark shalt thou put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel." So on earth as it is in heaven, I believe this is a blueprint of the Most High's own vehicle in heaven, how he gets around. Let me show you what I mean by I believe it's a blueprint of the vehicle that the Most High rides on. Let me show you what I mean. Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 4. And here Ezekiel is having a vision. And in a vision, this is what he sees. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. So there's that cloud again. Now, I want to jump down. I can't read the whole thing, y'all. You know, on your own, read this. It's fascinating. Okay, verse 16. The appearance of the wheels. See, the Lord been had wheels. And their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they four had one likeness. And their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So the Lord been had spinners. Spinners ain't nothing new. Y'all be talking about spinning rims. The Lord been rolling. Verse 17. And when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. So airplanes and all that, look, the Lord been had this. Man just catching up. The Lord been had advanced technology. So the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go. And the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood, and when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Now watch this. And the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of terrible crystal, stretched forth over their heads above. So above these four creatures, just like that ark in Exodus, the construction of the ark, right above it was a firmament. Right above them. Upon the heads. So now we know that, just to bring some up to y'all, that firmament in Genesis 1, that goes to show you that it's something solid. Because this is solid. Firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of the terrible crystal, stretched forth over their heads above. And under the firmament were their wings straight, the one toward the other. Every one had two, which covered on this side, and every one had two, which covered on that side, their bodies. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty. Boy, talk about revving the engine. The voice of speech, as the voice of an host. When they stood, they let down their wings. And there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. So basically like a soft landing. So now remember, the Lord had told Moses, I will speak to you from the mercy seat. So that's why I told y'all that I think that ark it was just a representation of the Most High's vehicle. Okay. Let's see. And above, verse 26, and above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and upon the likeness of the throne, like the mercy seat in Exodus, was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it. 27, and I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire round about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw as it were the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about it, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain. So was the appearance of the brightness thereof. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spake. And you can see this same vehicle again in Revelation chapter 4. So, something to think about. And now I found a video that I'm not saying it's the accurate description or the best, or the accurate depiction, but I think it's a good depiction of what this could have looked like, and I'll share that video with you guys in the description box. I'll share the link to the video so that you guys can see for yourself. Okay, so Ezekiel 10 and verse 1. Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament that was above the head of the cherubims, there appeared over them, as it were a sapphire stone, as the appearance of the likeness of a throne, just like the ark. And he spake unto the man clothed with linen, and said, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thy hand with coals of fire from between the cherubims, and scatter them over the city. And he went in my sight. Now the cherubim stood on the right side of the house when the man went in, and the cloud filled the inner court. See the cloud? Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, talking about the temple. And the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory. Verse 18. Then the glory of the Lord departed from off the threshold of the house, and stood over the cherubim. So this cloud came right back over and stood right back over the cherubims. And the cherubim lifted up their wings and mounted up from the earth in my sight when they went out. The wheels also were beside them, and everyone stood at the door of the east gate of the Lord's house. And the glory of the God of Israel was over above them. This is the living creature that I saw under the God of Israel by the river of Kibar, and I knew that they were the cherubims. So you see, this is his mode of transportation. Shrouded by a cloud, veiled by a cloud. Let's go to Psalms 18 and verse 9. Just giving you something to think about. Like I said, this ain't nothing, just deep and groundbreaking. But just appreciating, like I said before, the ingenuity of our God. Psalms 18 and verse 9. He bowed the heavens also, and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub. We just saw that in Ezekiel. And did fly. Yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. There go the wings of the wind again that we read about over in the book of Psalms. He made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the sky. At the brightness that was before him, his thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. And remember, he descended upon Mount Sinai that same way. Had Israel scared. Boy, they were running for their lives. You know, Israel talked that big game. But when they see that Moses, well, the most the Lord can get out with 10 commandments. Hey, Moses, we can't take it. But the Most High will use this cloud to protect people from seeing him in his full glory. 2 Kings 6 and verse 15. Okay, it says, and when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, an host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, what shall we do? And he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And that's something that we all need to understand, that serve the Lord. You might be on your own. You might be by yourself. You might have innumerable enemies come up against you. But there are more with you than with those enemies. You better believe it if you serve the Lord. Verse 17. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. So he asked the Lord to open his eyes. His what? His spiritual eye. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. And maybe it was the same way like we read in Psalm 68 and verse 17, when the Lord, when it was saying that the chariots of God are thousands and thousands. And so maybe that's what he was talking about. And that was the same group that was with him at Mount Sinai when he was given the law to Israel. So that is interesting. Here are the other scripts that you guys can look at on your own, as well as with the other ones I went over. Is Exodus chapter 24, 15 through 18. Exodus chapter 33, 9 through 10. Exodus chapter 34 and verse 5. Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 15. Isaiah 19 and 1. And Psalms 104 and verse 2. So that's something that you all can look at on your own time. Like I told y'all from the beginning, it wasn't going to be nothing in depth. Just kind of something to look at. I don't have anything else to add to that. So with that said, I will say shalom.